So today we continue our journey to investigate whether or not the Qur'an really is divinely inspired. 2 videos down and we found nothing to suggest that in the slightest, merely bad retrofitting reliant on vague terminology. But each new video is a new claim and thus must be treated as an isolated incident. So with that said, let's get on with today's apparent miracle of the Qur'an.
Verse 22 of the chapter of Al-Hijr of the Qur'an gives us the following news 1400 years ago, when the importance and meaning of fecundating was not known.
Well, I can guarantee you that the importance of fecundating was most certainly known by the time, even if it perhaps wasn't fully understood. Fecundate just means fertilize, that's all it actually means. Why Islamic apologetics likes to cling to the obscure language, I don't know. I guess it just sounds sort of interesting. But I'm pretty sure farmers understood the importance of having a fertile crop, even 1,400 years ago.
And we send the fecundating winds. Yes. This verse clearly states that winds have a fecundating property. What do scientists say about this news given by the Qur'an? Let us find out. Scientists state that winds have a fecundating property as follows. There are male and female elements in the flowers of all plants.
But not all plants have flowers and are in fact entirely asexual, whilst some are a mix and others are entirely sexual. Plant reproduction is not all standardized.
Fruits occur when the male element fecundates the female. This fecundation takes place thanks to wind.
No, not always. Fecundation can take place thanks to water or the assistance of other living organisms such as insects, birds and mammals. Fecundating does not mean wind pollination. The word you're looking for there is anemophily, which is a single form of fecundation.
Allah created the seeds of many plants so light as to fly in the presence of even a very light breeze. Pollens, dusts, and seeds of innumerable plant species are carried from one plant to another through winds.
Okay, well you've brought up an interesting point here in how seeds can be considered part of fecundation when it comes to the soil. You see, when I hear the word fertilize in relation to plants, I hear the word from a biologist's perspective, so part of the sexual cycle of some plants internally. But you clearly include the contemporary usage of the word in relation to the soil. I'll keep this in mind for later, as I think you've just broken your own argument.
Thus, the plants reproduce through fecundation, and their generations are ensured to continue. That is, plants reproduce thanks to the fecundating property of winds.
And yet, just like animals, there are plenty of plants which have gone extinct. So, what you just stated in that they're assured of their species continuation doesn't really hold up.
Apart from fecundating plants, winds also fecundate rain clouds to make rain fall down.
You can't just use the word fecundating to mean the end product of something. That's not how the word works, and that's certainly not what the Arabic word in the passage refers to. It just means fertilizing. How? Well, it could be that people observed one of the countless plants which have visible pollen that can be seen being carried by the wind. Or, as you noted earlier, a more likely scenario I'd consider, they were talking about the fertility of the ground the plant then grows in via the transportation of visible seeds. Poppy seeds come to mind. You see, the word fertilize in relation to plants doesn't simply refer to the biological process inside of the flower, but also to the soil the plant grows in. That is a very visible sort, which is why you're having to use video of said seeds being transported by the wind to illustrate your argument. It's very easy for people 1,400 years ago to see that and say that the winds fertilize and there's nothing mystical about it.
Until recent times, it was thought that the only relationship between wind and rain was that winds dragged rain clouds. Yes, it was something that could be seen by anyone who watched the movement of the clouds. However, the relationship between wind and rain was not only this. Air bubbles called aerosols form on the surface of seas and other waters due to foaming. They mix with the dust that winds drag from the land and fly toward the upper layers of the atmosphere. These particles, raised by winds, combine with water vapor, and the water vapor condenses around these particles. If it were not for these particles, 100% water vapor could not form clouds. Clouds form when winds fecundate the free water vapor in the air with the particles they carry.
Right, well, that would be relevant were any of that discussed in the Qur'an, but since it isn't, it's entirely irrelevant.
After these explanations of science and scientists, let us analyze the issue and find answers to the following questions. 1. When was it discovered that winds had a fecundating property?
Well, that depends on what we mean by fecundating and what we mean by discovered. A principle can be observed and described without being written up in a scientific journal. Does that mean it hasn't been discovered, or that it hasn't been explored by scientific circles? Now, I bank on the latter rather than the former, since that's accurate. Again, I've given multiple ways that these things could have been noticed, and you've given one really good way, said fertilization would have been observed in the dispersal of seeds via the wind. You really caught yourself out there. So, since the start of agriculture, I would say.
Answer. It was discovered in the 20th century.
Citation. Anemophily may have been discovered then, but I think more than likely it had been observed before that point and just not explored scientifically, as there are plants which disperse visible pollen via the wind. So your claim holds no real water there, let alone when we include the fact that fertilization can refer to the soil bringing forth life. Likewise, fertilizer doesn't actually pollinate plants in relation to their sexual cycles. It only changes the quality of the soil to make it, quote, fertile. Funny how it all comes back to vague terminology, isn't it?
2. Is it possible for a person who could not read nor write to discover this fact 1,400 years ago, that which was only discovered in the 20th century? Answer. It is impossible. Only an insane person can claim that it is possible.
Yeah, screw your casual ableism. No, a quote, insane person is pointing out what a dishonest person you are. Yeah, screw your casual ableism. No, a quote, insane person is pointing out what a dishonest character you are, as there's nothing even vaguely amazing about seeing some seeds drift in the breeze and referring to that breeze as the fertilizing winds. How is that so hard for you to conceptualize whilst you tout a mythical, all-knowing, all-controlling being? Really, one of these should be very easy to get, and the other should be seen as ridiculous. You've completely reversed which is which.
3. How can it be explained that the fact that winds have the property of fecundating is mentioned in the Qur'an if it is not accepted that the Qur'an is the word of Allah? Answer: it cannot be explained in any way. If the Qur'an is not accepted to be the word of Allah, neither this information given by the Qur'an nor any of the other scientific facts can be explained. There are two ways: to accept that a human being who could not read or write knew and discovered 14 centuries ago on his own that winds have the property of fecundating and all of the other scientific facts stated by the Qur'an, or to say, the Qur'an is the book of Allah. All of the news within it is the word of Allah. There is no other possibility. No sane person can accept the first probability, for it is impossible for a human being to know and discover them on his own. Then there is nothing else to do but to accept the second possibility. This book is the book of Allah, who is Alam al-Ghuyub, the knower of all unseen and unknown things. Yes, this book belongs to the same person who created winds and gave them the duty of fecundating. Everything within this book belongs to him. We believe in and accept it.
Great. Now just demonstrate that fact since you're 3 videos down and you fail to do just that. These videos are entirely reliant on false dichotomies which just don't exist in reality. I always hate rhetorical questions in these sorts of videos. I have given an explanation based partially on your presentation in this video. There are some plants with pollen that can be visibly seen in the wind, but there are far more seeds that can be seen that way, which is why you have used said footage in your video. That is often colloquially referred to as fertilizing the soil. So meet what we read in the Qur'an, and it's a fully mundane explanation. There's nothing miraculous about this passage or the Qur'an at all. Simply a high level of dishonesty presented as religious wisdom. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Hi there. I'd just like to say a few things here at the end of the video. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has ever donated to the channel via Patreon, giving a special thanks to the following people: Trevor Matheson, Andrew Spreitzer, Sean Conley, Alexander Williams, Daniel Martinez, and of course, Matthew Kovac. Your support has ensured this channel its ability to grow over the years, and hopefully for the years to come. I'd also like to ask that you comment down below and like this video, as well as subscribe and follow Essence of Thought on Facebook. Please also consider following the Atheist Alliance International group on Facebook, an organisation dedicated to helping atheists around the globe. Last of all, I'd like to request that you treat the people responded to in this video with a reasonable degree of respect. Whilst it is understandable that there are justifiable limits to said respect when tackling certain heavy topics, and anger can be a very genuine emotion in tackling injustice, any comment utilising language which insults others on the basis of perceived gender, sexuality, ethnicity, or both ability, mental and physical, will be removed immediately, and the commenter may be blocked on the moderator's discretion. Let's keep this space one which upholds the humanist values. So with that noted, take care.